Hello, everybody. Michael here, and welcome to Thursday Live with Michael, where I answer questions from the group. And you might be watching this on YouTube, you might be watching this on my page, whatever it is. Just remember, if you go to my Facebook group, and if you don't know where that is, just put a comment and we'll get back to you. Every Thursday, I answer questions that real life questions that people put in there. So I'm going to answer some questions that people have asked, and then I'm going to answer one of the most common topics that people ask about, and that is how to bring culture into your organization when you are working remotely. And I am just going to make sure I always get worried. Okay, we are live. I just got all this software going on. I have a technical background. I always get worried I'm going to be doing something that's not going to be coming up. But looks like you can see me, so that is good. So the questions, we've had some really good questions from some new members. So Lisa asks, wow, this is a big one. How do you support or deal with a staff member who is being abused at home? Now, when it gets to something at this level, a lot of organizations should have what's called an employee assistance program, Employee Assistance Program, EAP, Employee Assistance Program, where they coordinate with psychologists and therapists, because when it comes to maybe you're a manager, maybe you're an HR manager, maybe you're even an internal coach, there are some things that we should help people with. But then there's the whole other level of real true therapy and really real issues like this that perhaps need to be taken to the next level. And so while I may know some different things to be able to work on, because I've done masters in psychology that may help them, I would just not play in this arena, because there are so many different ways that there's legal issues, there's safety issues, etc. So I would escalate this probably out of your arena into some HR professionals or employee assistance programs type of things. But it's great, Lisa, that you spotted this. I don't know if they're a confidant of yours, so you got that info. That's very scary. And my wife shared some statistics that, for example, spousal abuse, kid abuse, and things are really, really, really high right now, unfortunately, and that's very difficult. And oftentimes right now, especially, that work is this place that's different than the home, especially when people are having problems in the home. And so the people at work, whether we're a manager or a coworker or whatever, we can learn about these things. Wow, yeah, so often there's so much to this. So often we are the people to know about this. So I would just encourage you really to take it to the next level with some HR professionals. How do I support or deal with a staff member who is experiencing a mental breakdown due to online or virtual fatigue? Again, that might be that's something for employee assistance program. Also, what I talk about and what I coach companies and leaders on is when they are not at this time, we should have a good idea now that we're 12 or 13 months into this pandemic. And what all the statistics, including my workplace study at the end of last year, has shown is that people are burning out, just like Lisa, Lisa, you mentioned in the group. And a couple things we need to do as leaders and managers. One thing is we need to simplify things. Over the last year, we had to go through a lot of change and a lot of chaos. And what that meant is that oftentimes we were throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks. Now we have to roll those back. And so it's really time for us to simplify. So look at your teams, look at what you have everybody doing, and see if literally you can take a third to a half off of their plate. Because you should know what your core processes are. And so what you need to do is get rid of anything that's not producing immediate help right now, or short and medium term cash flow, basically. Strip that out, because people are so tired, and we've been dealing with all this stuff for so long, and it looks like it's going to go on for a while. And so as managers and leaders, we really want to simplify and cut down the amount of things everybody's doing, so that we can focus and be better at those core processes. Also, you have to start making sure that people are taking time off. Managers are telling me that people aren't taking their holidays because they're saving up. They're like, why should I go for a holiday when I'm working at home all the time? Yeah, I get that. Yeah, but you need to take time away. Make them take long weekends. Make them take a 4-day weekend. Don't let them look at their emails. Don't let people call them, etc. Force them to take time off. And again, if they're going to mental breakdown issues, you need to give them a week off. You really need to make them disconnect, because as I talk about, people have heard me talk about this. If they get to mental breakdown state, that is weeks and even months coming back. So people are sometimes worried, hey, we have a lot to do. You can have a lot more to do if that person breaks down. And I really believe in a way, we failed our team and we failed people as leaders if we let them get to that state, because what happens is not only is that really terrible for that person and the family, also, if they are out for a couple of weeks recovering, that workload goes to somebody else in the organization, the other people in the team. And what does that say about your culture? If somebody drops out because of a mental breakdown, I'm thinking, and I'm part of the team, I'm like, wow, not only do I have to do their work, but does this company and these people really care about my well-being? So there's a lot to that. And it says your culture has shifted to virtual meetings all day long, totaling 8 to 12 meetings a day when we previously had 4 to 6 meetings a day. And again, hopefully simplifying that, Lisa, can help you and some of the people in your company. Also, just simply creating shorter meetings, making sure everybody doesn't need to be there at every meeting. In my high performing virtual teams course, we really talk about virtual meetings. We talk about some strategies that support that. So if anybody here is interested, I have a high performing virtual teams course. It has 5 modules that's delivered online. You can take that and it gives you a whole bunch of best practices around this. Elizabeth, wow, you're really giving me the hard questions today. So I have questions about solving team conflicts, blame game issue online. What is my best advice? Well, Elizabeth, you're welcome to call me or send a voice message or whatever it is to give me more info. It's hard to give you something like that on there, because what I find is what we did in the office is almost always we can do what we did in the office online. And so how would you solve these blame game issues if you were in the office? Because normally there's a way to get to there. And again, that's a pretty broad question. How do you solve these blame games online? Sometimes it's getting everybody on the same meeting, on the same video meeting, just like you would in the office. Again, high performing virtual teams, we have a whole section on accountability in there. That might be interesting to you. But Elizabeth, let me know if you want to. Let me know more info about that, and hopefully I can give you some more guidance, because I need more to go to give you some input on that. So let me pop back and do the let me just do this. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about, and the main thing that I put up on this post, is about culture in a virtual team. Because I just did presentations today and yesterday, and people were saying, well, how can I have a culture in a virtual team when we're working remotely? And my answer to that is, I get it. When it comes to culture, oftentimes when you're working in an office, you don't have to try as hard as you do when you're remote and you're virtual. So, but my question to leaders is, well, have you defined your culture? Some have, some haven't. And then I say, okay, in your last meeting, have you talked about culture? Well, no, we haven't. Well, that's what you have to do, because again, when you come into the office, it's like you're getting around everybody. So you really get that sort of energy transference about what the culture is. But when you're working virtually, what you really need to do and remotely is you have to really get clear about what your culture is, what your boundaries are, what you stand for, and you have to communicate that. And that really needs to be in your DNA. So that means every job ad that you put out should have things about your culture. When you interview people to get a good job, you should ask questions that reinforce your culture. When you do their onboarding, you should do things that reinforce your culture. Now, that's for new employees. So by the time they get to you, they really understand what's expected of them culture-wise. Now, for existing employees, every single one, maybe not every meeting, but probably once or twice a day, they should be having something from the culture remind them what the culture is. When I ran my company, and my company Radiant Technologies was about 2/3 virtual, 2/3 remote, We were hybrid, but we won the #1 best place to work, and we had an amazing culture. But that wasn't until I had some coaches and people that helped me define the culture. And we would do things like at the beginning of every meeting, everybody would, and again, this isn't every meeting, but maybe on our weekly meetings or management meetings, etc. Everybody would have to nominate somebody else or talk about how they saw somebody else going above and beyond the values of the company. And what that did is that brought it in present. People were reminded about the culture. And so if you are a manager or a leader and you want the culture to be enforced, and you got to get clear about what that culture is, and then you have to put it in every single thing that you do, every email, every newsletter, every update, every meeting, etc. That is really your job as a leader. And I also say it's like leading virtually is like you got to bring your A game as a manager. So, again, the question is, hey, how do we enforce the culture virtually? My next question is, well, what is your culture? Well, I can sort of explain it, but not really. Well, that's what I mean by bringing your A game as a manager. It's because to get to be a great leader, you really have to define your culture and then enforce it. And so it's really that type of loop. All right, everybody, this is Michael. Again, if you have questions, I love to answer the specific questions. So I am always here to answer these questions. Let me make sure that there's no comments. Okay, no comments. So every Tuesday we put out a post asking for your questions. So bring your real life questions and challenges here, and I'll do my best to give you some insight and hopefully make life a little easier on everybody out there. All right, everybody, to your leadership. This is Michael signing off. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.